Welcome to our Schoology 411 event this evening. I'm Dr. Christy Moreno, the Director of Online Learning, and I have with me Stephanie Martinez, our Instruction and Assessment Manager. This evening, we'll be walking you through a demonstration of the Schoology experience so that you'll get a feel for what it's like for your students, what it will be like when they're participating in online learning, whether that's for the first 2 weeks of school, for the first quarter, for the full school year. We're going to start by talking about that first week of school. We'll give you a demo of what the course menu looks like inside Schoology, what the course structure is like, and we'll show you 3 examples: a kindergarten reading class, a 3rd grade phonograms class, and an 8th grade science class. We'll also be talking about live sessions with teachers, some benefits of online learning, and next steps.
So let's take a few minutes and talk about the first school. The first 3 days of school are essentially going to be a Schoology orientation. We're going to use this time to give your students modules that they can work through to be able to understand the different parts of Schoology. We've created small assignments and things like that that they can work on that will be ungraded, but will allow them the opportunity to interact and determine the best ways that they are going to be able to navigate through Schoology. Then when instruction starts, they'll feel more comfortable with the platform. The first full week of instruction, we are going to then begin doing actual coursework and things like that. Those first couple of weeks will be time that we're going to be reviewing from the end of last quarter. We're doing this to ensure that our students are getting comfortable with everything before we start digging into new content material. Each week, the Friday before, teachers will post their content to their courses by 4 o'clock. Doing this will allow you as parents to be able to see it over the weekend in anticipation for the next week. You as parents will want to keep track of your students turning in their assignments. There are several courses. So for example, your students may have anywhere from phonograms, spelling, math, reading, grammar and writing, science, social studies, or in junior high, it may say literature or English. You're going to want to check each of these courses for all of their material.
Great, so let's go ahead and jump into Schoology. So when your child logs in, they'll see a screen like this. If there's any activity in courses, that will be here. You can also select Course Dashboard to see a list of the courses. In addition, we have courses right here on the menu, and you can see any courses they're enrolled in, up to 12. This screen will only show 12, so if you ever come here and it looks like something's missing, you can access My Courses to see the full list or go back to that previous menu we were on. So as Stephanie mentioned, students see a lot of lists, a big list of courses, all the courses that they're enrolled in. There are a few that won't have materials associated, like academic effort, citizenship, homeroom, or homework. So these are graded areas, but we don't have separate course materials for those. So let's dig into reading. We're going to start with a kindergarten reading example so that you can see what it's like for our youngest learners. And one thing you'll notice as we show you these examples is that the courses follow a similar structure regardless of the grade level or the subject area. They will all have lesson objectives. So we'll be telling you what we want the students to be able to learn or do by the end of the week. We'll provide content that supports those objectives. That could be ebooks, it might be videos or other interactive activities. We'll have an opportunity for the students to practice and get some feedback either from the teacher or maybe some automatic feedback on how they're doing. We'll have an assessment or assignment at the end, closer usually to the end of the week, when the students would complete that, and that will give them the chance to show their learning, demonstrate learning. And somewhere in the week, we'll have a discussion post. The discussion post can be a typed discussion. It could be an audio recorded discussion or a video recorded discussion. And it will give students the opportunity to apply what they're learning, to share examples with each other, and to interact with each other. So it's a chance to interact with their classmates as well as their teacher. And we'll wrap up each week with this questions and answers discussion. It can be used throughout the week. It's a place where your child can go and post any questions about that subject. So if they're reading and have a question, or they're working on their assignment and they have a question, they can post it in questions and answers. That way, when the teacher accesses the class, right away, the teacher will see that there's a question and can jump in and answer. Also, as the weeks progress, you'll probably see students try to help each other out, which is nice. So if I'm online and I see my classmate has a question and I know the answer, I might post that response. And the response would be there so that the teacher can double check it too, to make sure that students are providing correct instructions to their classmates. So let's jump in and take a look at some of these materials. So here's the objective for the week. Remember, this is kindergarten. So for all of our kindergarten courses, we have audio files associated with the text. We know our kindergartners can't read this text, so they can jump down here and click play.
Week 2 reading lesson objective. Students will be able to demonstrate their understanding of characters in a story by identifying characters' thoughts, actions, and behaviors by reading the text, "How do dinosaurs go to school?"
So the first time a kindergartner sees this, the child's probably not going to know what to do. But after doing this a few times, they'll get the hang of it. It'll get much easier. So they can just click play to have the text read. The next page, we're introducing the book. We have an essential question here that we want them to think about while they're having the book read. So why do we have rules at school? So again, this text on the page, student just has to click play, and the text at the top of the page will be read. Here's a vocab page. So you see here on the left, we have the audio. So the student can click on the audio.
Lesson 2. Words to know. High frequency words.
So as you can see, as the audio is played, the words are highlighted, which is another nice feature because the child can see as words are being read, they'll be highlighted. They can associate those sounds with the letters on the screen. So here's that main book we were introducing them to. And the audio, you can see, is a little bit different. Instead of having it on the left, we have it next to the text. And it will still highlight, get to the first page of the story.
How does a dinosaur go to school?
So the book will be read. Then here's my practice opportunity as a student. So I can click start. And we have some instructions that the student can have read. And then here's the first question.
Think about the dinosaurs in the story. Which one is your favorite character? Please answer using complete sentences.
So I can come here and click the red button to record my answer. The purple dinosaur in the story was my favorite character. And that will be submitted to the teacher when the student submits. So again, this is something, the first time they do it, they would definitely need some support from someone at home, either a parent or a sibling. But after they do this a few times, it will get much easier. So they can go through and answer each of the 3 questions and submit. Okay, so let's jump to the next course component. We have another book and then the actual assignment for the week. This book is a read aloud book that the teacher usually reads in class. So it doesn't have audio associated with it. So we've also provided a video.
Friends at School by Rochelle Bonnet, photographs by Matt Brown. We are friends at school.
So that's another option. Some of the books are videos. This is the final book of the week, My School Bus. So the discussion question for the week relates to that story. and ask students to think about how they get to school. Does it change? Is it the same? So again, they can click play to have this text read, and then they can come down here and respond. All of the discussions, you can type a response or you can record audio or video. Of course, we don't expect our kindergartners to be able to type that response. We'd expect them to use the audio or video recording, so they can do either. They can select just audio or audio and video, record that answer and post it. And then the students can see each other's responses. So I can watch my classmates' videos and respond to them or ask them questions and get to know them a little better. Then that final item is that question and answers throughout the week. I can post any questions I have. I can come in and see the responses. Another thing nice about this is a place for students to ask questions that relate to the course, not anything personal that you wouldn't want anybody else to know about. So if I'm a student and I might be a little shy the first week and I'm scared to ask a question, if someone else asks a question, I can see those responses. And then I can learn from them. And also I'll probably feel a little more comfortable answering questions. So that's one nice feature of having this shared questions and answers board. So please encourage your kids to ask questions. If they have a question, more than likely someone else in the class has that same question, so they can all benefit from asking questions in this way. So that wraps up kindergarten reading. I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie to share our next example.
So one of the things that we do at Legacy is our Spalding program. Well, we've taken Spalding essentially online. So let me kind of show you and walk you through this. Once again, this will be listed in your students' courses. You can find the phonograms and come right into there. I'm going to show you a third grade example. So once we start with third grade, you'll see that even though we're in third grade, we have the same things essentially. We're always going to start with those lesson objectives. Here we actually have videos and then end with questions and answers. Because phonograms is more of something that is intended for fluency, you won't find things like the discussion posts. There's really not a whole lot to discuss about phonograms or spelling. But let's get started on this course. Let's try one more time. All right. Here's our lesson objectives. You can see from here that we're going to have a purpose for this. Unlike the kindergarten one that we just saw, there isn't a recording to go with it, but they can learn what they're going to be doing for the week. Here we have videos of the OPR lesson. All the student needs to do is press play.
Welcome to our phonogram lesson. Before we get started,
You can see that it stays right here in the Schoology platform. They're able to view the entire thing, and at any time they can pause and restart if they need to. Now, these lessons are intended to be a little more interactive, as that's sort of how they're done in the classroom. So what we want to do is you'll find that a lot of these videos, there will be a significant amount of pausing for students to be doing work. We encourage them to be saying the sounds at home, saying them to their dog, saying them to their sibling, someone, so that they're practicing them and becoming much more fluent. The second part of the phonogram lesson is the written phonogram lesson. And you'll see here that we also have a recording similar to the OPR recording, where what they're going to do here is they're going to practice writing their phonograms. So there's a lot of times where the students are intended to say the phonograms on their own. And if they don't know them, here in the WPR lesson, this is where they're going to get some of the answers. Now, the very first videos you'll see will have all of the sounds. They'll all be said for them. So you can always refer to those videos as well in order to make sure that the students know what phonograms they're doing. Now, since they're not in class, they're not going to be submitting a written phonogram review each week like they do in their regular classroom. Instead, it's going to look just a little bit different. So it looks similar to these lesson checks that we saw previously with Christy. And these questions are all going to be set up the same. They'll be able to read the question, what phonogram makes the sound? When you press play, her, it gives you the phonogram sound. From here, they'll drag the phonogram into the box, and that will be their answer. Now, for some of the older grades, as time goes on, rather than it being a drag and drop, they're going to have to fill it in. But this is how the phonogram review will be done each week. They can click through all of the ones for that week, hit review, and finish. And then each phonogram lesson will also end with that question and answer discussion, where if students or parents are concerned about the sounds or they're not sure, they can always answer those questions there. Now let's go look at spelling. So you'll see that spelling has fewer components, but once again, it also has the lesson objectives for what they're going to be doing in spelling. And it will have their spelling list. So their spelling list is something they're going to need to be able to do the next activity. They'll have reference to it, they can come back to it, because they're not going to just be writing down their spelling words to complete the activity. They're going to be engaging in it in a slightly different way, similar to these other lesson checks that we've been doing. So here's an example of the first question. Through and new are present tense verbs. This means the action is happening now. Throw and no are past tense verbs. That means the action happened before. Choose the correct words in the sentence below. How did she, and I'm going to choose between new or no, that she had to throw the ball toward the goal. And that's how I'm going to answer the questions. Let's look at a different type of question. Sometimes they'll be doing fill it in. Here, they're being asked to say how many syllables are in a word, and they'll type it in to give their answer. Another type of question will be similar to the one that we saw in phonograms. Here, they're being asked to separate the words into syllables and to determine which ones are essentially using Rule 4 for spelling. They'll drag and drop. You can see there's supposed to be 3 answers. So they'll drag and drop 3 answers into the boxes to answer the question. Once again, they'll come to the end, hit review, and finish. And of course, it'll always say if you didn't answer all of the questions, so you have an opportunity to go back and say no, that you're not ready to submit it, or yes, you are. And then once again, we end with that questions and answers. There's no discussion post within spelling, as spelling words are fairly straightforward. So let's turn the time over to Christy, who's going to show us a 8th grade science lesson.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're at the other end of the spectrum. Started with kindergarten, moving on to 8th grade science. So again, we're starting with objectives. We have a discussion post. And then we have some instructions for the book. So just like if you were reading a textbook, a hard copy textbook, the students could keep flipping through the pages and read as much as they want. But we want to give them a little bit of direction about which sections we want them to read. So those are listed here. The book also has some interactive components, so we're encouraging students to complete those. It helps them understand the concepts, get some immediate feedback sometimes, even though those pieces aren't graded. And then we're also letting them know the lesson self-check at the end of the book, or the end of these readings, excuse me, we are going to have them submit as a graded activity. So don't complete the one inside the book. That wouldn't be graded. We're going to have you do it within Schoology. So we're exploration 1, 2, 3, and take it further. And here's the book. So the book, there are 2 ways to navigate. We have the left and right navigation buttons, and then we can scroll down to review the section. So this is lesson 1, but I know I need to read exploration 1, so I could scroll down. I have exploration 2, exploration 3, and to take it further. So for exploration 3, to give you an example, there's some reading. There are some questions to help me think about what I'm reading. They can be read to me.
In the photo, why does the shadow of a dog's head form on the wall behind the hand? In the photo, why does the
So they can type in a response and then check it against the information that they're reading. And a little bit later in this section, we have some items like this where I can select my response and get some feedback.
Think about what your head, the ball, and the lamp represent in your model.
So I got a little hint because I missed one of these. So they're going to give me some feedback and I can try again. But a variety of interactive components within the book. Okay, let's scroll back up here. Next, we're preparing the students for a virtual lab. So again, we have some instructions to help them before they get in. We want to let them know that as they're completing the lab, the information that they're completing will be recorded in a lab report that they'll download at the end of the lesson, and then they'll submit that to their teachers.
If you were an astronaut on the moon, what would Earth look like during a full moon? Click the image.
So we won't go through it all, but you can see right away there's interactivity built into this. You can scroll through and see the different images. Some different preparation. They'll go through and complete these activities in the lab. Their answers will be recorded in that report for the teacher. The teacher will know how much time they spent in the lab. So they'll submit that, and that will give the teacher the information that can be graded on the lab. Okay, so here's my self-check. And as in some of the other examples, there are a variety of question types. So some I'm going to type in a response. Others I'm going to select from a drop-down. Just going to go through a few. Students will get to practice their test-taking skills. These are skills we teach them. So choose all that apply. When you see check boxes, that's a choose all that apply type question. When you see radial buttons, you'll know to select the best answer. There's only one. I am guessing, so we'll see how I do. I'll go ahead and skip on to the end. So this is one of those examples where we want them to get immediate feedback where they can. So after I complete it, I can click on view, I can see my score. This is only for the items that were auto-graded though. So you can see this first one, the teacher needs to grade it because it was an open-ended response. So there's no grade for that question yet. But these others that could be automatically graded are, as a student, I can get my feedback right away and figure out what things I missed, what I might want to go back and look at in that book, that section of the book. I remember answering a question in there in a practice activity. So while it's still fresh in my mind, I'll get that feedback. It's really nice. So that's an example of that. Let me scroll back up. Okay, that was the self-check. So then I have a quiz that this is a graded one that I won't get the immediate feedback, and I have the questions and answers. So that is 8th grade science. Let's get back to our presentation.
So we've been able to kind of look at but let's talk a little bit about some live sessions. We know that your students want to be able to connect to their teacher, so there will be some opportunities for some live sessions. During these live sessions, students can bring their own questions. They may have questions that they didn't ask in the Q&A that they had in their course, or maybe they just have questions about Schoology itself. This will be the opportunity to engage with the teacher. They'll be able to answer those questions. Sometimes the teacher may come prepared with a selected review of important concepts that he or she may feel the students need to really know. So they may be taking that time to review the content, make sure that the specific things are highlighted in order for them to be successful. So while we understand that these live sessions may not work for every family, because they may be at times that you cannot attend or something may be coming up, these sessions will be recorded and then posted in Schoology so that you can look at them at any time. And also remember that these are optional. These are intended to be supplemental to support your student with things that they may be struggling in. Now, as far as to when these sessions will be, that will be up to the individual teacher. So be looking for communication from them as to when these live sessions will be scheduled.
Great. So we know that this is a unique situation, right? That none of us expected. Many of you may not have selected if you had more options, online learning. So we're all adapting, getting used to it. And we know there will be challenges. It will get easier as the weeks go by, as people get practice, but it will be challenging at first. So we want to point out some of the benefits of online learning. One is that flexibility that Stephanie mentioned. The same time won't work for every family, and that's okay. If first thing in the morning works for your child, perfect. If after dinner works better for your family, that's fine too. Whatever works best. Also, the pacing. The pacing is determined by your student, your child. So in the face-to-face class, the teacher tried to meet the needs of all the students in the class, right? So maybe there were times when your student would have liked a little more time on a subject, but we needed to move on to another lesson. Or the opposite. Your child really knew that subject inside and out and it had to just sit patiently while maybe some students who needed a little more support. In this case, online, they determine the pacing. They can spend as much or as little time as needed on a lesson. Access to materials. So we touched on this when we were reviewing some of the examples. Your child can access the materials at any time during the week, can read the book, can go back and reread the book later, can rewatch that video. I don't know, sometimes I watch a video and I find myself, daydreaming for a moment. If so, pause it, rewatch that section. Or, hey, I'm working on my assignment and I really need to go back and see a piece of that video that I just don't recall. Go back and watch it again. Even nicer, you have access. So when my daughters were small, I remember helping them in elementary school with math and thinking like, this is a different approach to math than I experienced when I was a kid. So I really wished I knew what that lesson was that was taught by the teacher that day. You will have access. You can go in and access these materials, read a lesson in the book if you wanted, watch a video if you want. So that's available to you. Immediate feedback, another benefit. Sometimes we've all been in classes where we completed an assignment or submitted it and had to wait, till later when it wasn't as fresh in our minds. But some of these materials, not all of them, they'll get immediate feedback. So if I missed a question on that knowledge check, I'll find out immediately. And if I'm like, hey, I thought that was something different in the book, I can go back to the book, fresh in my mind, and get that additional support. And finally, digital literacy. So your students, your children will be learning digital literacy skills, both cognitive skills and technical skills. They'll be finding information online, evaluating information, creating assignments online or presentations or different activities throughout all of these courses, and really developing those technical skills. So these are skills that will help them for the rest of their lives. So that's another takeaway that they'll have. Again, we realize there will be challenges. We're here for you. We're all here to support each other, and it will get easier with practice. So hang in there.
So now we've been able to walk through some of these courses and kind of get a taste of what online school is going to look like at the beginning of the year. And for some of you for a while. But what everyone wants to know is when they're going to receive their login information. So those of you who are joining us in Arizona, you'll be receiving your information on Friday, July 31st. For those of you who are in Nevada, you will be receiving your information on Friday, August 7th. So be looking for that communication. Along with this communication, you'll be getting a how-to document of how to link yourself as the parent to your student accounts. The directions will help you. It's a very well-detailed step-by-step to get you linked together. The great news is if you have multiple children with us at Legacy, you'll have the opportunity to put them all together in your one account. So you don't have to keep going from account to account to account. You'll see all of your children in one place. Now, Schoology is going to be a place where there will be lots of communication. Lots of communication will be coming out to our families over these next couple of weeks. Make sure you're looking at all of that, but always remember you can communicate with your teacher via Schoology, or you can email with their Legacy email, as we've always done. So now hopefully you've been able to get a sneak peek as to what your child will be doing at the beginning of this school year. This is the conclusion of our presentation, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thank you.
Thank you.